Historically, the creek was a really important travel corridor for Dakota and other Indigenous people. People would come from the Mississippi River, travel up the creek into the Phalen Chain of Lakes, eventually making their way to White Bear Lake, where they would harvest wild rice. It was always flowing. It was a very powerful, large body of water that ran through the landscape. About 100 years ago, in the 1930s, the creek was put underground into a very large pipeline.
With that water being forced underground in that pipe, it feels like trying to bury something important, something that was here. It feels like they're trying to bury us in a way, as Dakota people. Like we're not welcome back here.
The question that I get the most is, why would they do that? And it's like, well, because that's what settlers did. They manipulated the landscape to fit their needs. They had cut off the water flow at the lake to make way for local development and industrialization of St. Paul.
Knowing these things my mother's passed down to me, she'd say, you're Dakota, this is our home. I've never really felt welcome at home. Like your home has been destroyed by a tornado or something.
It's really frustrating to see this controlling of the natural elements, how much it disturbed local ecosystems, all the different wildlife and plants that had depended on that creek.
Driving it in the ground, putting it in a pipe, it's like you're burying something, and then we all know it wants to come back. We see the water always finds a way home. We're trying to come back home. It means everything. It means everything.
Being able to restore this creek back to the surface is not only healing for the land, but it's going to be healing for the community. Daylighting is the process of bringing a stream or a creek back up to the surface and kind of restoring it back to where it once was on the landscape. Our project is being led by Native people, by a Dakota organization, the original stewards of this landscape.
It's important for us to have a say over what happens to our land because this is our medicine. It means a lot that they're not, exiling us too.
The creek historically was 4 miles long from the south end of Lake Phalen. It kind of meandered through what is now the east side of St. Paul, ultimately meeting the Mississippi River at Wakaŋ Tipi, which is Bruce Vento Nature Sanctuary. The first phase is just this first quarter mile at the south end of Lake Phalen.
We're kind of towards the beginning of the creek. We want to make sure that we bring community through this whole process. So we are incorporating some habitat for some species that people that have been active parts of our engagement have identified as species that they would like to see brought back to the landscape. A lot of people in our surveys did mention the rusty patch bumblebee. Over the last year, we have been working through the design phase with our water engineers, with other stakeholders here in St. Paul.
The city's been very open to new ways of thinking and new ways of doing things.
This is a very unique situation. We are thinking outside of the box on how we can take water from the lake and recreate a stream that historically has been removed over the last 100 years.
One of the larger and long-term goals for this project is to reconnect the Mississippi River with the Phalen Chain of Lakes. And that was a really important connection, like I mentioned at the beginning, that was lost to this landscape that we want to bring back.
There's a large desire to bring that back through a lot of the community neighborhoods, not just the Phalen community, the whole corridor.
But it will have to happen in phases, so it will go along Johnson Parkway to Phalen Boulevard and then down Phalen Boulevard along the Bruce Vento Regional Trail and then down through Sweet Hollow and then through Bruce Vento Nature Sanctuary.
Not a lot of kids get the chance to experience these natural habitats, these plants and the water. So, we wanted to create a space for kids and adults to be able to have fun and build that relationship with the land.
That's really what Parks does, is try to create a community, provide recreation, and tell those cultural stories.
Long history of colonization and people trying to force water to do what they want it to do.
Things have changed at such a rapid rate. It hasn't even been 300 years. And there's so much damage, so much abuse that's gone on in our homeland, in our territory, in our Dakota Makoche.
Right now, under the current conditions of the creek, it's pretty much a straight shot to the Mississippi. The pipeline that is currently in place is connected to so many other stormwater pipelines along the way, which carries so much urban runoff into the Mississippi.
We need help. If we're going to make it into this next 7 generations, we have to do it as a whole.
The current timeline for approvals of the documents will happen later in 2024. And then construction, we are anticipating beginning sometime in 2025.
This creek, once it's brought back to the surface, it's going to have those native plants that are brought back to the landscape to filter the water. So the amount of pollution that's making it into the Mississippi is going to be greatly reduced.
In order for us to regain the strength of that connection to the water, our land, and our roots, I think our language, our ceremonies, this Dakota way of life is important.
This project also really gives the Native community a chance to reconnect with water as well. A lot of us here in the urban environment don't get a lot of great opportunities to connect with nature or clean bodies of water.
It's important that our future generations are able to experience the water that we used to be able to play in or drink or consume or whatever that is.
We think more about the connection that we have with the land and being able to restore that connection, being able to restore access to land, access to our plant medicines, access to clean water.
I feel like I'm coming into this at a great time where, you know, we can see the light at the end of the tunnel.
I mean, I feel like I'm living like one of our ancestors or my mother, somebody's wildest dreams. I get to be a part of this healing.